Hello there, and thank you for joining me again for one of these Criterion haul videos, where I show you exactly what I've picked up during the recent Criterion sale. And I've got 6 films to show you in this video. These were not in fact from the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale that has been running throughout July. These were ordered last month when Amazon had a 3 for 2 promotion on a number of Criterion Blu-rays. So I thought, why the hell not? Why not just do this twice? So I got 6 films in this, and they took a hell of a long time to actually get to the UK, but I've got them now. I've watched 5 of the 6, but the other one I have actually seen before, so I can talk a bit about all of these films. And I thought I'll just tell you what I think about them, and you could maybe consider getting them yourselves if you like what you hear. Oh, and before we begin, I'll just say thank you very much to all the recent subscribers who have joined us here on the channel. It's very good to meet you. You really are the best for being here. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, you know what to do. So let's get on to looking at these Criterion titles. So the first of these Criterion titles that I want to show you that I bought is Army of Shadows, the Jean-Pierre Melville film. And guys, if you've not seen this is genuinely one of the best films ever made, and that's not hyperbole. I genuinely mean it. This film is a masterpiece, pure masterpiece. For a few years, the Criterion disc actually went out of print, so this is the recent reprinting in 2020, and I was so glad to get my hands on this, because before this, I only had the UK Studio Canal Blu-ray, and I just really want this in my collection, so I'm so happy to have it. The film itself, it's this World War II political spy thriller, and it is shot gorgeously. This is famously the cinematographer Roger Deakins, who did 1917 and Blade Runner 2049 and Sicario and a load of Coen Brothers films. Anyway, he's one of the best cinematographers working today. This is his favourite film, and in terms of cinematography, the way every shot is lit in this film is like a cinematographer's film school in a film. I seriously mean it when I say that this is like a cinematographer's dream. I've been wanting to get a bit into cinematography and learning things just so I can make a few short films myself. And genuinely, you can freeze the frame pretty much at any point in this film and study how the lighting is done. And you can learn so much from this film. And that's without saying that this film is so thrilling and enjoyable, and not only one of the best French films of all time, but one of the best films of all time. The film looks amazing on this Blu-ray, and it's stacked with features including a commentary, interviews, and just a ton of extra stuff. So this is one of the best Criterion titles I bought in a long while. It's spy number 385, so I wholeheartedly recommend this to literally everyone. The next Criterion that I got is All About My Mother, the film from Pedro Almodovar. This is a brilliant film, and I'm trying to watch a lot more of Almodovar's films because I've only seen a lot of his more recent films and then some of his very, very early ones, but there's a big period in his career that I've not seen a lot of films from. And this has been on my list to get for absolutely ages. I was so happy when Criterion announced this was getting a release. The film is centred on a premise that is taken from the film All About Eve, which is where the title of this film comes from. But it looks at so many different complex ideas. It's a film about grief and about having a new life. It's a film that looks at gender and gender in society. It also tackled HIV and the stigma around HIV in the 90s. So really, a really fun film as well. And as with a lot of Almodovar's films, I see many, many Hitchcock influences. And you see that in this film as well. So I really love this film. It's thoroughly engaging. And something that Almodovar does a lot as well is really centers on female characters and making them such complex and powerful characters. The Criterion disc itself is amazing as well. There's a documentary on the making of the film. There's a post-screening discussion with Almodovar, which is really insightful as well. So I wholeheartedly recommend this as a blind buy to anyone who kind of likes the sound of it. It's spy number 1012, so a very recent release, like I said. And I love the artwork on this as well. So wholeheartedly recommended. Next up, a story from Chikamatsu. This is from Kenji Mizoguchi. And I've talked a bit about Mizoguchi on the channel before, one of the great Japanese film directors. And I think this is one of his films that kind of goes a bit under the radar when you compare it to Ugetsu and Sancho the Bailiff, but one that is absolutely has the stamp of Mizoguchi and is a masterpiece in my opinion. The plot of this film itself is a tangle of relationships between different characters. And something that Mizoguchi's films are so good at is throwing all of these characters into impossible situations, like doomed situations where there's almost no hope. And he just really drives home the drama from these situations. And you see that in Ugetsu and Sancho the Bailiff and The Life of Oharu, and in this film as well. So if you've watched any of Mizoguchi's films before and found yourself enjoying them, this is one not to miss. And if you don't know Mizoguchi, he was hailed as one of the best filmmakers of all time. In fact, Akira Kurosawa famously said this was a film that only Mizoguchi could make, and he really admired Mizoguchi. And if you ask me, and this may be controversial in Criterion circles, I prefer the films of Mizoguchi to Kurosawa. And that's not saying that Kurosawa isn't a master, because he is. But I connect more with Mizoguchi's films. Kurosawa's films are a lot of fun a lot of the time, although you get films like Ikiru, which is not what I describe as fun. Anyway, that's a whole different tangent. I'm just saying that this is a great filmmaker if you're not familiar. And also Andrei Tarkovsky was a big fan of Mizoguchi. So if you like Tarkovsky, you want to see some films that he loved, Mizoguchi and Story of Chikamatsu is one of them. The disc itself is not packed with special features, it just has an interview and an illustrated audio essay. But this is from a new 4K restoration. It's spine number 949 and one I'm so happy to have in my collection. If you're enjoying this video, seeing my Criterion Collection pickups, please do consider subscribing to the channel because you can get involved in the great discussions that we have here in the comments, and you'll see these videos as soon as they get uploaded. Anyway, back to the Criterion Collection picks. Next up, I've got the film Cold War from Pavel Pawlikowski. You'll see that this one is still sealed. This is the only one of these lot that I've not actually dug into yet. But I have seen the film before. I was actually lucky enough to see this when it premiered at Cannes Film Festival in 2018. I'm sorry, that's a bit of a humble brag there. But I was so happy to actually see that film at the festival. I have such a fond memory of seeing this film in a packed theatre at 9 in the morning. And that same day, I also got to see Shoplifters from Hirokazu Koreeda. And I also got to see Burning from Lee Chang-dong. So it was such a packed day of amazing world cinema. Anyway, I am very excited to actually crack this open and watch it. I think I'm going to do that after making this video. So I can't really comment on the special features, but it's so worthy of the Criterion Collection, and I hope they release Ida, which was Pawlikowski's previous film to this. I really love that film as well. Something about Pawlikowski's style that I find very intriguing is how he sets the frame. A lot of the characters in his films will often be in the lower portion of the frame, and he'll have all of this space in the center and the top of the frame. And I guess that emphasizes loneliness and isolation and not feeling a part of your surroundings. But the cinematography in this film is incredible. I love all the musical sequences as well. And it's a great romance story. Maybe a bit like a Brief Encounter, if I'm being really derivative. But yeah, it's a bit like that. It's a great film. And this is spine number 1005 in the Criterion Collection. So I'm going to crack this open right after this video. I also picked up Teorema. This is the film from Pier Paolo Pasolini, and it's a bewildering film. It's about this bourgeois family who have this student visit them, and he has interactions with each of the members of this family and the maid of the house, and he profoundly affects each and every one of their lives. And then when he leaves, it's about seeing how they cope with this figure leaving their life. It's a very peculiar film because the film doesn't really have a protagonist, because this man, this mysterious man played by Terence Stamp, he's not really the protagonist because he disappears. And all of these other people aren't really the protagonists. So it's a very weird ensemble picture in a way. There are so many ways you can read into this film and analyze it. I know some people believe that the character represents Christ and the second coming and how he would profoundly change anyone's lives that he encountered. It tackles political issues around socialism and capitalism and greed. I think it's a brilliant film. Not one that I would recommend to anyone, but if you're familiar with some of Pasolini's works, you know how extreme he can be and how he really can tackle a lot of social issues so sharply and almost violently, even though his films can be quite quiet. This is a great film, and one that I will rediscover so many times over the years. The disc is great as well. There's an audio commentary on here. There's an interview with Terence Stamp. There's an introduction by Pasolini. And there's an interview with John David Rhodes, author of Stupendous Pasolini's Rome. It's a great disc, and this is spine number 1013. So happy to have this in my collection. The last of these Blu-rays that I bought is the biggest. This is almost 5 hours long. The film I'm talking about is Until the End of the World, directed by Wim Wenders. I don't really know where to begin with this film because there is so much film here. There's so much material. It's ostensibly a science fiction story about this man who has this technology who can help blind people see, but it's so much more than that. The film is split across 2 Blu-ray discs, so it is in 2 halves, and the 2 halves actually play very differently. So in the first half, the story is this cat and mouse, almost noirish, thriller-esque kind of story that hops all over the world and is set in so many different countries. And then the latter half is all set in Australia, and it's all about deeper meanings about this technology and where we are in the world and the threat of nuclear extinction and capitalism and technology. There's so much going on here. Like family life is a big aspect of this. It looks at dreams. There is honestly so much going on in this film. For a 5-hour film, it actually does not feel that long. It probably feels more like 3 hours. And I should mention that this is Wim Wenders' director's cut in a way. This is the cut that he thinks is the best version of the film. It was released as a 3-hour cut way back when it came out, and it flopped. And in fact, the soundtrack was the most successful thing because Wim Wenders approached a lot of artists that he really liked, like U2 and R.E.M. and Nick Cave, and they all contributed original songs mostly to this soundtrack, which was wildly popular, just no one went to see the film. And he says that 3-hour cut of the film is like a Reader's Digest version of the film. So it takes out all the substance and just basically gives the plot. So Criterion have presented the best cut of this film for us. And it's kind of miraculous because I don't believe the 5-hour cut was available before Criterion did this. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I do think it's a passion project for Wenders, and that really shows on the screen, but it is quite bloated. There is a lot going on there, and I think some of it probably could be cut. But, you know, who am I to say? It's one that I will revisit, and I'm very excited to revisit it, actually, because I've been thinking a lot about it. And lately I've just been watching a lot of epic German science fiction films. I watched this, and then I watched World on a Wire from Rainer Werner Fassbinder. So that's been my jam lately, these really long German sci-fi epics. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. The special features on the film are amazing as well. There's an introduction by Wim Wenders. There's a conversation between Wenders and David Byrne talking about the music of the film. And there's an interview with Wenders about his experiences going to Australia. There's just so much in here. And this is spine number 1007. So for your money, you get a lot of film in here. So this is one I would recommend to anyone who's a fan of Wim Wenders. Like, I love Paris, Texas and Wings of Desire. So I really wanted to see this for the longest time, and I finally have. And it was a really good experience. So that's Until the End of the World. So there you have it. These are my 6 pickups for this little Amazon promotion. I hope you're all picking up lots of great Criterions in the sale. I'm still hoping to get quite a few in this Barnes & Noble sale as well. So I'm sure when they arrive, I'll do one of these videos again. Do let me know if you like any of these particular films I've talked about today, or if you dislike them. I'd love to hear about that as well. If you want to stick around on the channel, you can click one of the videos that's going to be recommended on screen now. I'm sure you can find many other good recommendations from me in my other videos. I'll be back with another video very soon, so until then, stay well and keep watching great films.